All right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the first Business Leaders Roundtable for 2023. Bit of housekeeping to start. Treat today as if you're in a live room, because effectively you are. If at all possible, please keep your cameras on. It helps with interaction. If you're not speaking, can you just mute yourselves to avoid any background noise? Now, there are a fair few of us, so we'll move through quickly. Finish by 10 a.m. at the latest. Now, use the forum as a network opportunity, as always. Every session has provided opportunities for people to both interact and do business with each other, which is a great thing. So first thing I would always suggest is put your details into the chat, who you are, what you do, and who would be a great referral for you. I'll just put mine in so you can have a look and see what I've done, and then replicate it, and then basically save the chat by hitting the three buttons down the right-hand side. So whenever you're ready, just do that as you go. That would be useful. So let's start with some quick introductions. I'm just going to go on my screen, which will probably move every couple of minutes. So Lisa, how about we start with you? Name, rank, serial number.
Sure thing. My name's Lisa Sheldon. I'm the director and founder of Blue Ridge Tax Accounting, which is a Sydney city-based accounting firm. I mostly do tax advice, which puts me a little bit different to other accounting firms. And happy to be here. Look forward to the discussion. And I will explain the two post-it notes behind me a bit later, because I left them on this, playing with them yesterday, but they relate to our topic this morning.
Oh, okay, excellent. Great. Greg.
You weren't expecting that one.
No, I wasn't expecting that.
Sorry,
Mr. Standen.
Yeah, Greg Standen, help NDIS providers to identify their target market and then help them build a marketing strategy around that to achieve their goals for their business and increase their ROI.
Okay, excellent. John Sutton.
Good morning. Yeah, John Sutton, Sutton IT Management. We're IT providers. We're based in Melbourne. We work up and down Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane. We do a lot of work with productivity gains for business owners via the Microsoft Power BI dashboards. So we drag data out of MyOb and Xero and other software and give people a view and be able to have different pieces of data refer to each other.
Excellent. Mr. Picton.
Yeah, good morning. My name is Peter Picton. The business is called GradSift, and it's a software as a service platform for larger employers who recruit high volume roles, particularly graduates and interns. And we've been operating in Australia now for about 4 years, and we're in the process of trying to create a presence in the US as well, but it's still very early days.
Okay, excellent. Ram, how are you going? You're on mute, mate.
Sorry, bad habit. Yeah, my name is Ram. I work for Jacob. I've known Rashid for, oh my God, is it 40 years?
More than that.
All right, it's been a very long time. We're at university together. Yeah, so I recently started to work for an Australian company called Jacob. They're sort of better known as a NetSuite ERP Oracle partner. They also acquired a company that does workflow optimization technology, and I work for that division. The technology is called Quicta, and it basically is out there to identify from start to fulfillment workflows within organizations. And these could be people that have complex workflows inside their premises, or it could be somebody that has a lot of field service offices and just does the whole thing from end to end. So that's basically me, software as a service. So
okay, great. Thanks, Rob. I'm just looking at the chat here, and could I make a suggestion? People, you need to put your phone numbers and contact details in so people can actually contact you. It would be easier. If you haven't done that, I'd suggest to do that. Mahesh.
Morning, everyone. Thanks, Rashid. Currently, I'm a business development manager within industrial automation. We work with high precision motion control, and we have a couple of research laboratories as well that works with developing standards for assessing light and issues concerning light. And my main focus is finding new opportunities within New South Wales and Queensland and expand our customer base for industrial automation. It's a lot of opportunities, and where we serve, it's a very integrated, interdisciplinary requirement where we have to serve control for it can come in any direction, and it's quite fascinating. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Mahesh. Graham, how are you going?
G'day there, everybody. I work with startup and scale-up tech businesses primarily and helping them to develop and implement high-impact sales leadership, mentorship, sales process and methodologies so that they can create sustainable pipeline to grow their market share. Competencies, sales methodology, process implementation, sales leadership, mentorship, go-to-market, strategy development, social prospecting, sustainable pipeline building, and sales operations development, primarily in the domain, or my primary domain expertise is in information management, data analytics, AI, SaaS and cloud-based technologies. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you, Graham. Frank, how are you going? Can't hear you, mate. No, I don't think your mic's working. We'll come back to you in a second, otherwise. Nope. Try a different mic. We'll come back to you. Sean, how are you going?
Yeah, good morning, Rashid. Yeah, going well. So I'm a founder of DisruptTech. We're a distributor of cybersecurity solutions. We source the best solution from around the world in each area, and we only offer that solution. And through our partners, MSPs, IT companies. So, we support organizations like Sutton IT Management, the market leaders in MSP in the marketplace around that. And that's kind of it. That's all we do.
Excellent. Thank you. Andy, good to see you.
Morning, Rashid. Morning, everyone. How are you going? My name is Handy. I'm from a company called Interscale. So we are an MSP focusing mainly in the design and construction industries. So we have quite a bit of services for the CAD and the BIM, building information modeling, who's very focusing on the building and the design industries. So this year, we got quite a few new service offering. For an example, like we got a solution for large data migration. When I say large data migration, we're talking about hundreds of terabyte and even petabyte between OneDrive, Gmail, Google Drive, and all kind of stuff. So a lot of solution. And we're also starting to offer an asset and inventory tracking using RFID. So we are an MSP, but yeah, we are slightly have a few unique service offering there. Yeah, I think that's all for me. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Keith, how are you going?
Hey, Rashid, very well. Thanks and good morning, everybody. My name is Keith Ross Carroll, represent Rossmead Consulting. And essentially we do business and technology strategy and transformation planning for organizations. Doing more and more in the cybersecurity space. Been working with Sean for a year or so in that space. They're great guys. And yeah, we tend to engage predominantly with the C-level, CIO, EO, and board level and transformation strategy.
Excellent. Roger, good to see you.
Morning, Rashid. Thank you for the invite. My name's Roger Smith. I'm with Care Managed IT. We are a managed service provider, but we are focused on cybersecurity in the not-for-profit space. We have developed our own six-point-based security model that we apply to non-profits and just to lift them up into a level where they are better protected from the bad guys that are out there. So thank you.
Good. Carl, good morning.
Good morning. How you going, Rashid?
Good.
So Kyle Page, CEO of Ericom. We're a large Telstra partner and play in several fields, so IT, ITMS, prisons. We do technology for prisons, contact center and UC, and we have a lot of fun.
Great. Good to see you again.
Yes, mate.
Mobin, good morning.
Good morning. Mobin Nova, founder of Simita Ventures. We are a technology development, product development SME. We help different startups, companies to build new technologies and add them to the product portfolio, either for internal use purposes or for launch into the market. We are primarily active in future energy and circular economy space and dealing with physical products.
Okay, thank you. Frank. Frank, can you hear us? Can you introduce yourself? See if your mic's working.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay, there you go. Finally got it working. So, yeah, Frank Flurry, MD, co-owner of Faith Pacific. We're a value-added reseller. We focus in application security and networks, supplying a range of test solutions to software developers, security architects, and network deployment engineers. We help them build robust networks. We help them test the networks. We help them test their applications. And we extend our services into test automation and automating test environments as well.
Excellent. Thank you. Rob, last but not least. You're on mute, mate.
Sorry, I thought I left that in 2020. Sorry, at that moment of starting, my daughter woke up and they just started doing presents. So that's now finished. Apologies for missing the first part. So Rob McAdam, Cypherize is the business. Just started working with Rashid. We specialize in providing easy to use authentication solutions. So the concept around an end user no longer having to remember a username or password that is used their phone. The same as what was done for COVID. You scan a QR code and you get access to your systems. There's over 5,000 systems that we can provide that for. And our job basically is to improve the workflow of a business so that that impacts their profitability, simplify their architecture, and simplify the user experience for people having to access systems.
Thank you. Barbara, you want to just introduce yourself, or shall I? All right, so Barbara over there is my wife and business partner. The other half of everything that we do. She keeps me on track and make sure that the wheels don't fall off. I think all of you know me, but in case you're not familiar with what we do, I help leaders of technology companies increase profitability and business evaluation leading to a successful exit. One of the reasons we run this is to build up a community of like-minded business owners, and as such, I would love introductions to other business owners that could form part of this community, and business owners who want to create a financially rewarding business. So I'm just going to go through a couple of things, and then we'll open it up. So one of the first things we always talk about, and if you can see that, is the journey that every business goes on. And the reason I put this up is because it's just instructive to see where you're at and where you want to get to. And in our world, there are effectively 4 major stages to every business. And in the first stage, when you start a business, you're basically working for the business. You know, you basically bought yourself a job in some respects. You're it. Everything effectively depends on you. Cash flow can be a challenge, and focus really needs to be sales and building your reputation, which is something we're going to be talking about later on today. Then as you move up that curve, you start working in the business. You might delegate, you might have some staff, some contractors. Cash flow is still generally a challenge. You might find yourself, everyone else getting paid except you. I don't know if any of you have experienced that. We see that a lot in businesses. And the focus here, once again, is on profitability and building a stable cash flow. And then you move into an expansion phase where you have the chance to work on the business, which means that you can actually start to strategize and think more strategically. But the holy grail, as far as I'm concerned, is to be in a position to work beyond the business, where you are making money and enough cash that you can invest externally so that you make money along the way, as well as have the business run without you, ostensibly, so that you could be in a position to sell it without golden handcuffs. Because I've been talking to a number of close friends who've all got businesses, and they're looking to sell, but the problem is people are saying, oh, look, you know, we want you to hang around for 2 years. That's not what position you want to be in. You want to be able to say, here's the business, it runs without me, I could move away, the thing would actually grow without me. And in fact, that's one of the tests that we use for moving into that phase. Could you go on a holiday for a month or 2 months and the business actually grow without you? So I don't know where you're at, but it's just interesting just to look at that curve. So the topic today, how to position yourself as a credible authority and expert in your niche so that potential clients come to you predisposed to buying. Because I don't know if all of you are aware, but someone who comes to you first and actually says, hey, listen, I'm interested in doing business with you, is more than 2 times more likely to become a client than somebody you reach out to cold and have to build up a long period of relationship and trust. So we all have competition, we all know. And so the question is, how do you stand out from that competition? Why would somebody reach out to you? Why would someone come to you over everyone else? Now, here's the interesting statistic. So Harvard University did some research a few years ago, and at that point, they said 50 clients are 57% of the way through a buying decision before they reach out to a potential supplier. That means they're already almost 2/3 the way through a decision. Now they reach out, so they don't want to talk to salespeople very often. And they've already made a decision. And then when they reach out, it becomes, who's going to give me the best price? And that's not where you want to be. So to become a supplier of choice, somebody who stands out, ultimately it comes to positioning in your market. Because, you know, if you need brain surgery and you want to go to a neurosurgeon, there are a couple of famous neurosurgeons and you don't quibble about the price. Everyone else gets lumped into the also rans. Now, there's a very interesting part with the 80-20 curve. I don't know if you're all familiar with the Pareto principle, 80-20. What it actually shows mathematically, though, is one person or one entity will be at the top and it will take 60 to 70% of the market. Then another entity, or maybe 2, will take the next little lot, and then everybody else falls down into the rest of the curve. And everyone else is scrambling for basically the crumbs. And so you really want to be in a position where you are that number 1 supplier of choice. So if we look at this, let me share that screen again. So we're all about leverage. How do you actually get leverage in sales? So if we look at that ladder, somebody down the bottom who doesn't do any marketing is obviously not going to do all that well. You've got to do some form of marketing to get your name out there. So somebody who does, an entity that does marketing is going to be twice as successful as somebody who doesn't. Somebody who actually actively goes out and has a sales team and actually goes out and reaches out to people who could be in their target market, gives them commercial insights as to what they should be looking at, what they should be doing is going to be 3 times more successful. And then we move into relationships, because we all know that it's 7 to 10 times harder to get a new client than to sell to an existing one. So when you've got an existing client, you really need to be farming that client as much as possible to see what else you can sell them. And that's something that it staggers me that most organizations don't do this, or they have consultants who will simply not go and open their eyes and look at other opportunities that happen to be out there. Last session, Kyle, you can talk about this a bit later with the profit matrix, with the matrix. I thought that was a really good idea. We'll talk about that a bit later. But then you move. So all of that is a push. You're pushing out, you're pushing out, you're pushing out, and it's hard work. But you want to hit a tipping point where you start to pull people towards you. And that is referrals, where you get a multiplier effect, and then people not just referring, but recommending. And there's a big difference between a referral and a recommendation. Anyone who's ever been in BNI would go, yeah, referral, yeah, I've given you a name. You ring the person and they have no idea who you are. A recommendation is, hey, listen, you did a really good job, and I think you need to be speaking to so-and-so. And oh, by the way, I'm going to make the introduction, and maybe I'll even be on a call as a 3-way call. But the holy grail is positioning, where if somebody is out there looking for your type of solution, you show up, you have absolute credibility, and they say, okay, you are the supplier of choice. Over the years, I've had a number of people turn up, and they've downloaded our material. Some of our material was 50, 60 pages of white paper. They'd highlighted things, and they basically said, we've already made the decision to buy. We just wanted to make sure you didn't have 2 heads. So that is the position you really want to get up to. So to accomplish this, the number one thing I would say to all of you is, don't be generic. You need to take a stand. You need to be contrarian. If conventional wisdom says do this, X, you need to be saying do Y, and be clear as to why they need to be doing Y. For instance, we've got a client that we've had for 6, 7 years. He's a stockbroker, and his differentiator is that he uses both fundamental analysis, the way Warren Buffett would use for a company, as well as technical analysis, which is charts, and puts those things together, and therefore helps his clients preserve their capital as well as grow their capital. And that is a differentiator that very few people have in that market space. This next step you need to do is to set yourself up as a credible, trustworthy expert and authority in your field. And you do this by education. You need to educate your market as to what they should be doing, what the real causes of their issues are, which may not be what they think, and what they should look for in a solution. And this is something that I drum into people when they're doing tenders. There is no point in sitting there and answering a generic tender, because they probably already made a decision as to who they want to hire. They've got to go through the motions. You've got to be in there formulating the questions that they need to be asking, giving them the answers they should be expecting, which are obviously slanted towards what you do. And the third thing is, and this is really important, especially with technical companies, you need to elevate. You need to talk business outcomes, not technical outcomes. And this is something I hammer into every technical vendor that we work with. It's people do not buy technology for technology's sake. Something that people don't realize is that a large organization is going to go, well, it already works. Why do I need to change? So the status quo is the biggest impediment to people changing. And you've got to figure out how you can give them a commercial insight that says the implications of staying where they are with the status quo are more painful than the change that you're going to have to make. And then there's a whole science behind how you cover all of the people that are involved. And in fact, modern research shows that there are actually on average 5.4 entities involved in any large commercial sale on the buyer side. And you've got to know who they are. And that might not just be single stakeholders, it could be groups of stakeholders. And any one of those could say no. And we've seen instances. I saw an instance recently with a previous client of ours, and I rang him up and I said, oh, how are you going? And he said, we've been working on this deal for a year, large deal. He said they were going to sign the deal next day. Then the CEO turned around and sent an email out to the organization saying, we're about to sign this thing. Anybody else got any issues? HR came back and said, we're already putting something like this in. They went a year's work because they did not find out all of the various stakeholders. So that's just a salutary lesson. Anyway, let's open it up for discussion. So how do you feel that you could position yourself? And Lisa, seeing as you wanted to talk about the two post-it notes behind you, why don't you start there?
Sure thing, happy to do so. And it is slightly funny. So, and if you look around the backgrounds of most people on this call, quite a few of you have branding in your corner or in your green screen or somewhere else. I don't like green screen because I tend to talk with my hands, a bit like Rashid. But an accounting firm, you have to be positioned strongly. You have to have strengths in how you describe yourself. I recently moved offices, which was a good thing, a sign of growth in my firm. And all my consultants, all my colleagues, my people I interact with frequently, my referral partners said to me, we'll just work from home. That's the new normal. Don't do anything. But if you listen to how my clients describe me, this is Lisa, this is Blue Ridge Tax Accounting. They're an accountant in the city. They're able to do global tax advice, do complicated solutions, and they're based in the city. I can tell this group confidentially, I've had an entire 2 face-to-face meetings in my office in the last 12 months. So I clearly don't need an office physically, but I need that perception. I need the positioning to be an office, and it needs to look physically different to my home office, which I do still use. So the artwork is coming next week, which will have a swap in and out for the brand when I choose to use it and when I don't choose to use it. But being in the city, being in is a nice, easy way, but listen to your customers. How did they describe your industry? What do they expect from you in order to continue that conversation and do business with you? That's my take on positioning. And the other very funny aspect is I did a couple of phone calls, Zoom calls yesterday, and I forgot to put the green screen on, and I left the post-it notes on, and I forgot to explain it to those clients, which I know very well. They never asked. They didn't care. They just want the business solution, the technical advice I'm giving them. So you do sometimes wonder, do these things that we overthink sometimes, do they actually matter? What's going through your client's mindset? And an existing customer will be different to a sales pitch, but does it matter? And I would argue, yes, it does.
I would agree that yes, it does, because there's an American that I did a lot of video training with, Steve Washer, and he put out a video recently where he was talking about backgrounds. And he said, you think the background isn't important? Well, it really is, because people notice things and it distracts people, especially in this sort of Zoom type environment. So yeah, absolutely. But it's interesting. Why do a lot of large companies have the really swish office? They're really posh, this, that, and the other. It's all about image. If I've got that sort of image, then I can charge.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's why I have the image that I have as my background, which is purely aspirational. And by the way, a little bit of context, that's Jamie Packer's penthouse at the top of the Crown in Sydney. And it is just a beautiful thing. And it's a purely aspirational. So there you are.
There you go. One day we might just see you in it.
Oh, wouldn't that be nice?
All right. Anyone else? What are you facing?
Can I just drop in on something that you said, Rashid, about buying journeys being completed or partway completed? I think it's at least 57%. I would even argue it's closer to 70%. And it's in the world that I operate. It's very crowded and very noisy of sales leaders and those who are opinionated and whose opinion is right. At the end of the day, they're all saying, we're all saying the same thing. The proof of my pudding is in being able to get to the C-level executive that I am proposing that they need help in getting to in their business. And when they're being able to talk the language of leadership or the language of their business. Okay, so what I guide people to do is not only about having an ideal customer profile and describing the typical person in the buying role, the buyer persona. And again, to one of your points is understanding influence. Okay, so that example you gave, there would have been no, in my opinion, would have been no attention paid to influence. Who is influencing who in this decision? And they would have found, if they had have done their work, that the HR person had influence to the CFO, because of course the new buyer at the moment is the CFO, and they are the guys who sit at the top of the tree now. So it's very important to, and I say to my people, lead with insight and always ask why. And if you're going in knowing the person's business and know what their problems and issues are in their role, then we get through, then we cut through.
Yeah, I think you make an excellent point there, because it's the influence. If any of you read the Challenger Sale book, they've got another book called The Challenger Customer, which is even more interesting, because it is all about the people who actually influence the sale, and their jargon happens to be mobilizer. But it really comes down to, you've got to figure out who's who in the zoo and who the stakeholders could be, but also who the users are. Because I remember talking to another organization, and they put in SaaS products, and the SaaS product would have changed the way the users actually did certain things. And they'd been doing the original way for some 20 years. And after about 3 months, the organization that put the system in would say, hey, listen, this is not working because nobody's actually using it. And so they basically kill the deal. And I'm going, well, unless you get the users involved right up front, in your, nothing is going to happen. You can put the system in, and all of us who've been around for a long time have seen these sorts of very large IT installations that millions and millions of dollars just get turned on, get turned off. Nobody uses them.
Pete,
So,
I have a question. When budget conscious and cost conscious customers don't recognize quality, and they make purely cost conscious decisions, how would you change your language?
okay, so the problem is, okay, so near enough is often good enough. Okay, if something is working, I don't see a real need to change. If the incremental difference is purely incremental, I mean, you could have fantastic technology, and I say, yeah, that's great technology, but I don't see the need to change. The only way you can influence this is if your positioning and your insights say that, hey, hang on, yes, okay, what you're doing works, but if you keep going down this path, there are going to be some pretty negative implications. There have to be negative implications. Okay, what most people do in their positioning, and if you look at their material, their websites, they say, oh, look, this is we're fantastic, we're aspirational, there's all of this great stuff that we can do. And you know what? Your clients don't care. They don't care. It's the old trope where people say, pain motivates more than pleasure. Well, guess what? It's been proven through Challenger, who interviewed, I don't know, 1,000 sort of large vendors and their buyers and whatever, and did a whole bunch of empirical research, and they found it's true. Unless you could mobilize people through pain, the implications of staying with the status quo and then showing them that the pain of change is actually less than the pain of staying, they will not move.
In fact, if I can just drop in on this, because it's something I'm running a session on tomorrow. And it's about how you develop your baseline value proposition. And in reality, it doesn't change. Okay, so yes, at the moment, I'd agree with you that organizations are becoming cost conscious. What that means to me is there has to be a greater or a brighter light shone on business value. Okay, so a business value proposition must be to either improve results or reduce risks, and how we deliver those reduced risks to the potential buyer based on their role, because this is absolutely not a lot to do with the organization, right? It's about the person that you're selling to. So at that C level, we should link our improved results, reduced risk business value proposition directly to one or more of their professional objections. So because the questions that ultimately you have to answer is why change, setting the agenda on outcomes and managing risks, why now, establishing a level of urgency, and why us, giving you the opportunity to provide relevant examples of results and companies that you've done this before. So today, it's about value, and it's about lowering risk in the eyes of the CFO, because she is now the number one person in these organizations.
And I would, yeah, you're absolutely spot on, Graham. And I would add to that, you need to look at the professional and the personal.
Absolutely. Going back to Liz Hone's.
Because
absolutely.
if I'm taking a risk personally by implementing this thing or recommending this thing and it doesn't work, that's my reputation, that's my status. That's my future employment, or I lose my job, or the other way around. But it's usually going to be a negative. There's going to be some sort of fear there. What if this doesn't work? With IT departments, it's the fear of, oh my God, I'm going to have to do more work. Do I really want to do more work? So there are a whole bunch of different things that come into play, and you need to know what those are. Kyle, you want to add something?
I do, mate, I do. So I completely agree with what's been talked about. I just want to sort of tackle it from a different perspective to give you a bit of grounding from how we do things. And I'll make this statement and I'll tell you how I back it up. I love being the most expensive person in when they go get 3 quotes. I want to be the most expensive, guaranteed. I don't want to be the cheapest. If I'm the cheapest, I'm not doing my job the way I position. Right. So I'll put it to you this way: when we then think about how we and why we do this, and I simply put it to you: go to a footy match, go to a play, and 2 people, you and your best mate, sit side by side in the same seat. We both know what we paid for the service. I paid $100 for my seat, and the person sitting next to me, my best mate, paid $1,000, and I'm jealous that I didn't pay $1,000. Now, when you work out how to get that jealousy, you start to work out what your value proposition is, and you need to be the most expensive. So in my business, I call it KP Tax. My name is Kyle Page. This business, when they come and ask me for a discount, I put the price up by 20 to 30% every time they come to me. So the staff, the 26 odd salespeople, hate coming to me to ask for a discount because I put the price up. When we go sit in front of a major organisation, and I'm up against Telstra, I'm up against all the big boys in there, I want to be dearer than Telstra. All right? And the reason being, people have fear. And if you go the negative, if you buy the cheapest, you have a fear that you're going to actually, are you getting everything? What are you missing out on? When you're the most expensive, you're going to be asked, prove why you're the most expensive. People go, okay, yeah, I understand you're the most, and they want you to prove. This comes back to your value proposition of the seat. Why are you more expensive? Now, when I start looking at some customers, when I go into customers, and Manish, to answer your question, I went to a big health fund just recently. And I've asked them, and they said to me, oh, we're making a price conscious decision. I said, yeah, well, I'm walking out. And he looked at me and he said, why? I said, because I looked at your last 6 or 7 decisions, and where you've arrived to today, you guys are in a mess. He said, yes, we are. Because you went for the cheapest quote, so I'm walking out. He said, no, but Kyle, we want to hear from you. We've heard about your reputation. I said, no, I'm walking out. I don't want to deal with the person who wants to get value from me. I want to deliver a service. It costs money. It takes time. You've got change management and blah, 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 all the other things you talk about. They invited us back, and I stayed for one more meeting, and they went straight back into cost. I walked out and told them to go with somebody else. Now, I bought a company recently, and we sat down, and to give you the converse of what we did, we looked at their biggest customer who argued, didn't pay on time. It was the biggest MSP for this little company we bought. It was worth about $8,000 a month to the business, a legal firm in Melbourne. I cut them in 30 days. And I paid professionally to move them to another organisation. And they said, but we don't want to go. I said, no, you're going. You don't listen. You're a security risk. I know our reputation impinged that. The impact it had to our staff, the fact that we cut their biggest customer and put more time into customers They were smaller customers. We put more time in. And this goes back to this positioning your image about who you want to be in the market. It's not about price, it's about value, as Graham said, but you lift your value up and then prove it. And then I've got to say to you that once you then get into the sales cycle and you are at the highest price, you can then decide, if you really want the business, you can decide to give some things away. You can't do that if you're the cheapest, all right? And all of a sudden, when you teach yourself to be the most expensive, you start to learn how to believe you are, and then you have to back up your NPS score that you actually do what they want. And I can say to you that we've had a big mining company with a lot of mobile phones in the mobile area we play. Another Telstra partner walked in and said, "Oh, we do it for half the price of Ericom." And they come to us and they left. They said, "Oh, we're going to get exactly the same service for half the price." I said, "Yeah, let them go." All right. And lucky enough, 4 months later, they're back saying, "We didn't realise what we really got from you guys." And my sales manager came to me and said, "Kyle, they want to come back." I said, "Yeah, they can come back. Put their price up 30%. And they came back and they're still here. That's a year later, they're still with us and their price went up 30%, because it goes back to, you have to be confident that what you're delivering is what you promised. Not better than your opposition. It's what's in your heart of what you want to deliver, no matter which product or whatever you do. And I've now got 100 odd people believing that day in, day out, they breathe it. You know? And our NPS score, we're up in the 60 to 70 to 80s. Right? And I'm so proud of what the staff does. But it comes back down to this attitude of where you see yourself. And Graham, this value and all that sort of stuff that you're doing, couldn't agree more. But I sort of take it back a step to make sure that you're positioning yourself with your pricing to match by being the most expensive. There you go. There's my take it, Rashid.
I think that's an excellent point. And I think, as a mate of mine, Carl Fink, says, if you don't charge enough, you're going to breed resentment within yourself, because you're going to end up doing stuff that and you're going, well, I didn't really charge enough for this. So if you charge more, then you raise your own expectations of what you're going to do, and you raise their expectations of what they're going to do. But there's another side to this with positioning. You've got to put a stake in the ground. You've got to claim a position. You can't have somebody else claim a position for you, because they'll claim whatever they want to claim. But if you want to be the best, and you stand up and you say, "Hey, listen, I am the best at what I do. This is why," and then prove it, you'll always have a better place in the market size.
Yeah, so Rashid, I'll share with you that just recently Telstra went and quoted a big job, and they stuffed it up on their proof of concept on the 2 sites. They came to us and said, "Oh, you guys don't stuff up. Can you please take over the project and help us out?" And we said, "Yep, we'll do that." And we sat with the customer, and they're pretty pissed off because things weren't being done on time. Everything was. We looked at their statement of work, and Telstra had underquoted what they were supposed to deliver. No wonder they weren't delivering. Right now, we delivered the 2 sites for them the way they wanted. And we said to the customer, "The price is going up. You ready for this?" The price went up 60%. That's how far Telstra are out by. The customer said, "I'm not paying extra 60%. Telstra's already got a quote." I said, "Well, you go back to Telstra. You're not happy with them. They can't deliver it. What they've quoted you won't work. We've just proven to you how it will work." He thought about it. He said, "But I don't have it in my budget." And I said, "Well, again, that's not my problem." All right. And it sounds a bit cold, but the customer, we knew the customer had to go with us if they wanted, and we proved to them with 2 sites, they've got 250 more sites to go. And I said to him, "Do you want the risk?" This comes back to somebody else's talk about risk. "Do you want the risk of failure of you reporting to your board that this was done to a budget but it failed? Or do you want to change your budget now, and you know now that with this company, it's going to work?"
Well, there's another side to that. Okay, so speaking about budgets, I was talking to a client a couple of days ago, and he said that, and they deal mainly with the mid-tier. And he said one of these mid-tier characters said, "Oh, look, we've only got a budget for whatever it was, let's just say $300,000 for the year. And I have to spend $100,000 doing this, and I can give you $200,000. And I'm going, well, there's your first problem. You're not dealing, you're solving a major business issue for these very large corporations, and you're dealing with somebody in the middle. You need to be dealing with somebody at the top. When they say, we don't have budget, well, create one. Carl's absolutely right. It's not your problem. Create one. But nobody in the middle is going to be able to do that. And that comes from your own positioning, and that comes from your own self-belief, because ultimately positioning comes from self-belief.
Yeah. So,
you've got to believe it.
Yeah, so I just want to share one thing, that taking this sort of attitude when we started the business, and we had a business for 22 years, that, you know, and I don't want to be rude to myself, but it was also ran. We tried to get every piece of business. We tried to win everything we quoted. We tried all this, and at the end of the day, if I looked at EBITDA, you know, we were lucky to get, you know, 6%, 7%, 8% to the bottom line. We bought this new business 8 years ago. Change this attitude. Now we had to bankroll. Like when you have this, some would call arrogant attitude, but it's an attitude of where you want to position your business. We had to bankroll the situation that we knew we weren't going to win every deal, but we knew when we won a customer, we weren't going to lose them, because we could actually give the time and resources. And that takes money. Right? It took us 2 years to bankroll that, to get that. And I can say to you now, to brag for a moment, 9 years later, not 22 years later, 9 years later, we've taken a $2 million company to 40 million. We've got the highest reputation in the marketplace in several of the vendor lanes, Cisco and lots of others. And we're driving 20% or more to the bottom line.
So here's the question that Barbara posed to me a second ago. What's the difference between arrogance and conviction?
Interesting, isn't it?
Anyone want to answer?
I might kind of jump in there. I think confidence can be misinterpreted as arrogance. I actually think it's confidence. You know, I think it's a positive thing. You kind of know what you're doing. You know, you're displaying all the right characteristics. It's winning favor. You know, and it's actually doing the right thing, knowing you're doing the right thing. I think, you know, it's more confidence. I'd say arrogance might be a perception externally, but I think internally it's a confidence thing.
Yeah, I'd agree. So when I was in my 20s and I was working for NCR, and let's just say I was supremely confident about what I was doing. And I once asked some people in my team, you know, the people I worked with, I said, look, am I aggressive? And they all laughed and they said, no, you're not aggressive, but you could come across as quite arrogant. Okay, but it was born out of this, hey, listen, I don't suffer fools badly. In fact, it was a joke. I didn't suffer them at all. And I had to learn to temper that. But it is that fine line between, you know, confidence tipping over into something that, you know, people don't particularly care for, whatever.
And I just want to add to Kyle, because I think he's probably made 20 really important points in a brief period of time.
As he does.
Yeah, I was working for a company called J-Curve RAM, and a lot of the guys in the sales team were discounting every single deal. They discount 20, 30%, whatever, 10%, whatever it was. And the national manager made a decision that for the next 2 months, we're going 20, 30% above our market price that we go to market with. And for most of us, the sales didn't change, exact same amount of sales. So it kind of showed me at the time that it's just as much in your mind as it is a need to discount. You know, if you think you need to discount, you're going to discount more. If you're kind of going at a height, you're coming in at the most expensive, you're not thinking about discounting. And it changes your mindset. And I'm just kind of echoing what Kyle touched on there. And just something else I wanted to add to that, there's also an element of learning as you go. Like you'll know as much as you know, but then something will happen which will kind of flip everything. So for example, a couple of years ago, I was working for Unit 4, it's an ERP company, you know, IKEA, ING, etc., globally run off it, similar to SAP. And we were, one of the segments we work in, or I worked in at the time, was with engineering firms. And the biggest thing I learned out of that is if you leave a CFO out of the first meeting, he will not sign off on anything. It doesn't matter how good it is. The NPV could be ridiculously favourable. The payback period could be 3 months. If the CFO isn't in that first meeting, nothing gets signed off. So, you know, there's an element of learning as you go as well around that. And knowing
just quickly
the
on the
Yeah.
just quickly on the discount thing, and I mean discounting, or the word discount is a word that I don't think I've used for many years, and I've always been a strong proponent or believer in, you know, the negotiation can't happen until the right or the need to buy equals the need to sell, and it's about negotiating. So it's about give and take. So I'm not discounting, but if you want to pay less, I need to gain more. So I need a testimonial, full colour front page of the Sydney Morning Herald, for instance, to be ridiculous. In return for you paying less, you get less. If we agree, then I will get something in return that's of great value to me. So discounting, as you say, Kyle, turn around, go away, not interested.
So, Rob, I'm going to come to you. You've successfully sold a couple of companies, just bought another one. What's your take on all of this?
Like Kyle, my previous work history was I had two professional services in security. One was penetration testing, the other was in GRC, governance, risk and compliance. So we would certify businesses to a security standard. And it was interesting in that when I had the businesses that got sold into public entities, we were $3,500 a day. And that was back 10 years ago. And everyone else was at 1,800. And people that would look at the business would just go, how do you do that? And it's to Kyle's point that it is a belief in oneself, and then the people have a perception that, okay, I'm paying more, this must be better, and also too, you need to be able to meet and beat that expectation. So it holds you to a standard. Now I also tested it as well too. So I went 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, and the close rate went from 80.5% down to 20% when I hit 4 at that particular point in time. So I did experiment to be able to see, you know, what the market would actually bear. So you can't just walk in and go, okay, we're $1 billion a day. So it really is holding your feet to the fire for that. And because the sales folks will have a certain expectation of what it is that they can actually get away with to be able to transact, and holding the feet to the fire for that, for them, is genuinely to everyone's benefit, because it reduces the amount of time that they spend on ones that actually aren't going to be able to work. And once you actually set that discipline within the business, you've made it so much easier for everyone else. It's just a case of holding your feet to the fire in the first instance.
I think it's also, if you look at the analogy of the 4-minute mile, you know, before Bannister broke the 4-minute mile, everyone thought it was impossible. And the minute he broke it, the other two runners behind him also broke it. And then it was smashed forevermore. And I think if you look at that analogy in the case of sales or your positioning, once you're positioned at the top and people start to believe it, one person makes a sale at that level, other people will do it.
This is one of the interesting things in going into the public arena and the sales staff within that is that there's so many demonstration points whereby we were able to sell at a higher rate, and then the rest of the team wouldn't believe it. And then despite their own benefit, they still wouldn't. So, and because I was no longer the influence within the core influence, I was just part of the team, then your influence gets diluted, and the business that was buying the asset that I was selling don't get full value, because the M&A team were going, okay, if we extrapolate out your results to what we do for what we have now, then teach them how to do it. And to be perfectly frank, I've so far not been able to do that for the entity that has actually bought, because culturally there are other factors at play. So I've been honestly more successful as the person leading the charge rather than someone assisting other people to be able to lead.
It's really interesting, Rob. Do you get a feel that, you know, we've touched on self-belief here, and you know conviction / arrogance, which is probably not worked out until you've delivered, and then, you know, delivered, you had conviction. If you didn't deliver, you were just arrogant. I think it's a pretty simple framework. But do you get a notion that the sales person was already defeated into the charging that they wanted to do, or ballsy enough to do it, or just hadn't positioned it right?
I think they were just familiar, and that familiarity is comfortable for them. So I just in the case of, you know, learning a new skill, it's going to be hard. You're gonna have a few skinny bits, but that's going to hurt. So if that hurt, and basically what happens is, what I found is that you go, okay, I'll employ someone who happily sells at a higher rate. You know, I have to pay more for that person, so on and so forth. And what I found is that those people expect something else, some other things to be able to be successful. So they come from a larger environment and they need something more flashy or whatever it is. And I found that hasn't worked as well too. So it ends up coming back to the support of the staff which you have under your charge, to be able to get them to be able to change their beliefs. So my contribution to the security industry has fundamentally been the amount of businesses that have started as a result of being in my employ. So those ones that believe enough, I then go off and create my own competition.
Good measure.
Of which, you know, the first time it happened, I was a little bit dirty. Yeah, we're up to double figures now. So, you know, you come to accept it, and then you kind of just go, yeah, okay, well done. That's one of mine. That's what's happened.
Okay, thanks, Rob. John, you haven't said much.
No, I've been listening. So I work in a market a little bit smaller than a lot of the markets you're talking about. So for me, it's about getting in front of clients and having a conversation. I refuse to do things on email. It's about getting into the offices and having a conversation and understanding what they want. And I think these days, too many people are too quick to decide what people want and prefer to do it via email than pick up a phone and make a meeting and go and see someone.
Okay. Peter, how are you going with position?
Yeah. Like John, I've been really enjoying the listening to the conversations, and I guess for us being a software as a service product, we have kind of fixed kind of prices. And what I have found in the last 12 months, which I've been pushing more and more, is also then providing support service in addition to the use of the software as a service. So they pay a license for that, but we've found that there's actually a lot more margin by providing additional support. So for example, you know, we've got some clients who say, hey, we love your product, but we don't have the internal resources to use it, even though it's pretty simple. Can you guys do it for us? So we do. And the margins that we can make on that are way higher. And it also means that I kind of fell for a bit of a trap, I think, in the last couple of years of pricing, of saying, well, this is what our prices are. They're pretty cost effective. So if you want it, that's it. But what I've kind of realized is that when I'm speaking to prospective clients, most have never looked at what our pricing is. So they just say, we get to the stage of, okay, so what's it going to cost me? And I'm able to then kind of like assess what the size of their organization is, what their potential to pay is, and basically, you know, set the pricing without being restricted by what's in my head in terms of what I say the price is. So I'm able to kind of, you know, I guess come up with more of a value kind of price and package. So I guess it's kind of just, you know, again, just listening to what everyone is saying. It's not just getting, you know, hung up about what I think the price is. It's listening to the customer and knowing what they're looking for, what the value is to them, and coming up with a value in the price which works for both of us.
Well, how could you go about quantifying the value?
Well, it's looking at what their alternatives are. So I know there was one organization that used a recruitment outsourcing firm to provide a full package of services, and we could do about 80% of that. So, and I know, you know, what the that recruitment outsource service cost would typically be. So I've got a benchmark, and let's say if that was going to be $80,000. And so if we're able to do 80% of that for, let's say, $40,000 or $50,000, that's still a tremendous value to that client.
Okay. Anyone else? Ram?
Okay, so part of the challenge is for the customer to feel the pain points that you think they might have, and for them to realize their potential ROI. And then you can sort of position your value for services. This has been a little bit challenging.
Okay. Tell me more.
Okay, so when you provide a software as a service, it is a service for the duration of the contract. And if it's pitched a little bit too low and the service doesn't get delivered, you're not going to really be able to keep the contract. And if you pitch too low, you just can't basically hold the business. But they need to sort of understand what you're proposing is something that, okay, it's going to be $20,000 a month, but if they have your service in there, they could save the workload on 30% of their resources, which could amount to $100,000. So if you're a good provider of that service, that 20,000, not 19 or 18,000, is going to assure that they're going to have a good service and a better ROI, if that makes sense.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
And sometimes we're trying something a little bit different now, where we are engaging with people in like a discovery call that could go over half an hour or an hour with some of our specialist guys and a few key stakeholders in the organization. And if during the call we realize that, hey, something that we're offering could be of use to these guys, then we would ask if they're interested in like a limited functionality trial where we help with the setup and we help with a limited amount of training and let it run for a while so they can actually observe qualitative and quantitative benefits. And if they sort of feel that this is going to work for them, then we can go about implementing the full-scale solution. And then if they want to negotiate pricing and things like that, we could potentially ask them, well, we basically could, but are you prepared to sign up for a multi-year contract?
Okay.
Because you've actually seen the benefits.
Just a question there, Ram. Something triggered me. How do you avoid doing free engineering work?
It's sort of basically contained, like we need to ourselves internally understand that this makes sense to the customer.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
if, for
And
example,
I think that's
work,
the thing. Yeah. I think people go into demonstrations too fast, and they go into free trials too fast, or even paid trials. But I think we can take that offline. I'll talk to you about it if you like. Frank, you haven't said much.
Can you hear me? Firstly, fantastic. No, I've been trying to get my head around Coles' approach of increasing the price by 30% when they ask for a discount. That's a good one. So I'm not quite sure how that would work in what we do. We typically resell solutions from vendors from overseas. So we have kind of fixed pricing models that we tend to work to, but we do encounter the whole discount question often, and we try and avoid discounting as much as we can with our customers. And really it comes down to as everyone has said, really trying to position the product from a business perspective rather than just from a pure feature function perspective. Invariably, I think you made the comment earlier, Rashid, that you've got to get not only the business managers buy-in, but you do have to get the end user buy-in. We have seen situations even with solutions we've sold where, you know, it's been signed off, it's been purchased, lots of money being spent, and then the users turn around and say, this adds more work to what we have to do. We don't like using it. And then you've got the ongoing battle to try and get them to use it, because what we sell is subscription based. So we want them to renew year on year. So it's a fine, you know, interesting dilemma that we then have to face when the end users haven't bought into it. I also liked Lisa's statement about perception and having the office in the city, because it is sometimes, you know, perceived, you know, we as an organisation, not a large organisation, albeit that we do deal with very large customers and we have some very large suppliers. Having a presence in the right part of Melbourne is important. So we have an office which we don't see all that often, but we do have an office, and it's, you know, one of the things I remember, people don't tend to use business cards much these days, but certainly when we took on the company back in 2019, you know, we had our business cards made up, we made sure we had an office, and what we did note is people would often look at the business card, oh, you're based in Little Collins Street, okay, yeah, right. So it's a perception thing.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because, okay, so I'm going to throw this last question out and then we'll start wrapping up. So if you're a relatively small company pitching to large companies, how do you get around the, well, you're quite small and you may not be around in 12 months, or you won't be able to support us?
Are you asking me that
Anybody who wants to answer that? It's something that we see a lot.
Okay, it's too easy, mate. Too easy, Rashid. All right. Big fish, big pond. Little fish, big pond. All right. And it comes back to your value proposition. All right. If you want to be my biggest customer in my little pond, where you get 100% of my attention and we pay attention to every single need you have, you need to be with a smaller provider who understands and listens to you. And we have continuity. The same people who deal with you today will be here in 10 years' time. Or you can go and join the mainstream. And I wish you the best of luck of making sure you've got the same account manager in 6 months' time. Take your choice.
Good way of putting it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, track record as well. We've been around for 20 years. We have customers that have been with us for almost that length of time as well. So, you know, when people ask that question, we use that as our sort of peg in the ground.
So we've had that a few times, especially for leads, for the different solutions. And we kind of take a different, it's a really good response, but what's worked for us is, instead of going to some of the much larger IT companies or MSPs, we can arrange for somebody that's local to where you are, that maybe 10 to 15 minutes from your office, supporting you. And, you know, because they're a partner with us, we've gone through checks and accreditation and validated all those concerns that you have. So that's kind of how we manage that. And also, if they want someone local, then you're kind of giving them what they're asking for as well. So it's kind of a green tick before you even start from that perspective for us.
Okay. All right. So we've had a lot of moving parts today. What stands out for you? Anybody that you're going to change, do, need help with?
I might have to put up my price even further, I think, Rashid.
Yeah, why not? Absolutely.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, that just listening to all the conversations that I think I realized, I should say, that the price points that we set for our software as a service product is way, way too low. And there were some reasons why we did it, but now I look at it and think that was a kind of a dumb move. And so we've already started to move upwards. But yeah, I think we need to reposition our pricing for the kinds of increases that Kyle so easily seems to be able to implement.
Again, I've got to say, it takes time to get that through.
No, I understand. But my point is that, you know, we took our annual prices up around 6.5% in January, but we really need to reposition our products because we're actually continuing to add additional features and benefits to our clients, and we need to basically price that in a way that they look at it and say that's fantastic value, but where the prices have gone up 20% or 30%. So it's not something we're going to do like tomorrow. But yeah.
Could I just add something here? With a concept of software as a service, the key thing is you got to deliver a service that makes sense to the end user. And once he's got you on board, to change to another provider involves a bit of disruption. And if you're doing a really good job looking after them, I think it's like if they do ask for a bit of leniency in price, by keeping the price stable, but giving them a few months and negotiate that, or extending the time of the contract, that seems like a better way because you're still getting money and it allows you to factor in an increase by giving them a warning that you're giving them an opportunity to take on a 2-year contract now, but the prices will move up 15% in 6 months' time.
And I must admit, one of the things I've noted from this conversation is I've never had a client ask for a discount, which kind of says something about where our pricing can be. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so let's just say there are two forms of positioning here. One is the organization's positioning, which if you own the organization, then you have a lot of influence there. But if you don't own the organization, it's also your own personal positioning. How do you want to come across? What stand do you want to take as, and I'm going to assume in the sales position, what stand are you going to take? So look, we obviously work in this area. So if any of you want to have a conversation with me offline, I'm certainly more than happy to do that and possibly just steer you in the right direction. So let's just wrap this up. We've got a few more minutes. I'm just going to go around the screen and ask one thing that everyone is going to take away and what you find useful, and we'll use this to promote the next one. So, Lisa, can I start with you?
You certainly can. I was going to say, it is positioning, but also positioning differently as service, advice, something that only you can provide, as distinct from, and a lot of us have mentioned it, a transactional product. And it might be your product or a resold software. It's price competitive. There's no value in that. But why aren't you selling that package? And the package can keep going up in price 30% plus, because there's value in the advice, but you can't have that without the other. And I think there's a lot to unpack here. We've had a really good discussion.
So if you think, thanks, Lisa. If you think experience a Venn diagram with experience, expertise, and essence, you've got expertise as an organization or as a person, as an individual. You've got certain experience, however many years of doing different things. And hopefully it's, you know, when somebody says they've got 20 years experience, let's say, is it 20 years of doing the same thing or 20 years of doing something different, where you've learned something new? There is a difference. And then there's the essence of who you are as a person. You know, what do you bring to the table? Because people buy from people. People don't buy from organizations. Ultimately, they buy from somebody. Okay. Greg, what did you take away?
Something that I've been thinking about is my pricing, because this is something. Although I've been in the industry for 25 years, specifically what I'm doing is something reasonably new to me, and so I've taken away that maybe I need to really look at my pricing. Also, one of the big things I've been thinking about through this whole discussion is at the end of the day, people really don't care how much you charge. They don't care about anything so long as you can solve the issue or the problem that they have.
True. All right. Thanks, Ray. John.
Sorry, Rashid, can I just
Sorry.
add something, Greg, here? What stands out to me is, yes, pricing is important, but pricing is one part of the whole positioning. Who do you want to be that you can make sure that people pay the price you want? I think this is something that often gets lost. Pricing is often looked at as one chunk, but it's actually part of a whole. Sorry about that.
That's all right. There's something else though. We talk about networking, and we talk about networking as who you know. Well, positioning is about who knows you, what your reputation is with those people. And that's far more important on some level than who you know. John?
I think there's been a lot of reinforcing some basics that have been really good, like the contrarian point that you made early on. I really think that's very valuable, but also claiming a position and being able to present that properly. I think it's fundamental in talking to clients and making your position known.
Yep. Thank you. Peter.
Yeah, I think the power of recommendations. We have a Queensland government client, a department there that has been super impressed with the service and outcomes that we deliver. And the lady who is the main person I deal with has spread the word to the point where we're looking at a whole of Queensland government contract next year. Plus, in the meantime, just had yesterday another department reached out saying that Sally highly recommends GradSift, and we'd like to go and set up a time to chat to talk about what you can do for our kind of graduate program. So I think giving clients a fantastic experience and seeing them make recommendations is so much easier than knocking on doors.
Excellent. Well done on that, Queensland.
Yeah.
Excellent. Rob.
For me, the first thing was first time here is this worth my time? And I can resoundingly say yes. So thank you to everyone. The second one was just the layout of the priorities in relation to positioning, for example, being 10 and so on and so forth. And then I'm just going to go away and just do a little bit of research on each one of those and the allocation of time associated with that, with my marketing efforts, and seeing whether do I have a bias towards certain ones, and if I change that bias towards what is supposed to be more valuable, then by definition, it's a better use of my time. And that's it.
Thanks, Rob. Andy.
Yeah, thanks, Rashid. Yeah, I think it's been great to listening to everyone's ideas and comments and feedback. So it's just been very useful. The same way with the previous session that I attended. That was the previous one. That was the first one, and this is my second one. So I think for me, from the beginning of the journey, I've always been wanting to do a service offering that's very, very unique. So we can't be an IT company who does everything and any services, because we'll get buried, right? So I think echoing from what Lisa was saying, the value proposition and then the service needs to be unique enough, and once it's unique, then naturally you will remove a lot of the competition anyway, right? Because for an example, and it's been great for us because it's been from the starting of the journey. I mean, there's one or two very unique service offering that's only a few companies in Australia that can offer. And then because of that, we managed to get into some of the large organizations. For an example, like Department of Defense is actually our customer. I mean, without this unique service offering, it will be nearly impossible to get in. So I guess, so I think the takeaway from this session is, I guess it's just an assurance that everyone is sort of on the same page and agree that, you know, you need to be unique enough, and then obviously then your value proposition also needs to be strong, your delivery needs to be strong as well. Then the price, it's obviously it's important, but at the same time, like Carl was saying, it's probably not that the most important once you've done everything right. So I think that's probably the only takeaway from me for now. Yeah. So I think it's just assurance that things will just work well if we keep going.
Good, excellent. Barbara makes an interesting point to me. Pricing is similar to a ribbon on a gift box. It just ties it all together. Frank.
Yeah, I think, look, for me, the one key takeaway is the word confidence, and I'll certainly be looking at spending some time with my sales team just to ensure that they are confident in what they're doing in terms of how they're positioning products, so that we don't get into that whole, you know, price discussion that we want to avoid, to try and, you know, undersell the product when it should be sold at, perhaps, as Carl said, at a higher price than what it, you know, people are really buying for it. So yeah, the word confidence, I think that's where we've got to be, knowing that you know, we are positioning products correctly, knowing that we are confident about what we're doing, and offering a lot of value to our customers.
Excellent, thank you. Kyle.
So first of all, before I tell you what I got out of it, I do have to share a bit of a relevant story, but funny. I was with a couple of people yesterday getting back to work, and we were talking about a new client we just won for ITMS, for IT managed services, for security and a whole bunch of stuff. And I said, they were one of our competitors. How did we win that? And they said, oh, Paige, you're not going to believe it. He said, they got our quotes, and the incumbent technician was out there, and they asked the technician, what do you think of Ericom? And they said, they're a lot more expensive than you guys, but they say they deliver all these services. And you ready for this? The technician for the opposition company recommended they go with Ericom. And I'm going, I need to find out the name of this guy, because I need to put him on the payroll, I think, because you know, here he is recommended to his own customer. He said, oh, Ericom do these other things better than us. So we said, we don't have all those services. You're better off on the security side moving over to these guys. So when you have one of your competitors recommending you, I've got to say to you, that's, I don't aspire to that, by the way, but it is interesting. So what I take away from this is I'm always looking for material and attitudes and ideas, and we've got our sales conference where we bring all our sales teams and a few other people and a few vendors together. And this year we're doing it mid-February. And just listening to the way that you all have talked about some of the issues that you're facing, it grounds me to remind me how we've got to where we are, to then take those stories and rebuild some of the issues with, you know, when you've got all different types of salespeople in our team. And we've also got some trainees. So I'm taking away that I just need to rethink how we've got to where we are, and make sure that we do that in our sales conference that I've got coming up, because it's so important to get our salespeople's attitudes correct in doing what we do.
Excellent. Thanks, Carl. Keith.
Yeah, look, I think the session was highly valuable. I got a lot out of it, and certainly a lot of affirmation and somewhat reminding, which was really good. I mean, from what I heard, I think identity is so important. You know, what I heard from no particular order here, but Rob, Kyle, Peter, and Lisa. You know, so who we are. You too, Graham. Sorry, who we are. This is who we are. We're not going to repent. No, this is what we're about, and this is what we provide. I think is such an important, in fact, an essential starting point. I think the others around focus. You know, I heard the word simplification. That's my aspiration this year, but certainly focus and correct priority, and that priority should always be questioned. So they're my main takeaways, and yeah, well, thank you for everyone for sharing and adding their insights.
Thanks, Keith. Sean.
I thought it was a really good session with a lot of valuable input, pretty much from everyone, and a lot of it for me is relating to stuff that I've done in the past. You know, when I ran my own management accounting business in Sydney and Melbourne in my early 20s, kind of going through all that. But I think for me, the big one, and look, there was probably a few, but if I have to select one, which is really difficult, it'd probably be the innovation around pricing that Rob did, that he was talking about, going to the market, at $3,000-4,000 a day, and everyone else is like 1,600 or whatever. And then kind of seeing where that price can go. I thought, that's kind of icing on the cake for me, if you can get that right.
Okay, excellent. Graham.
Look, all good, very good points. I think the courage of your convictions, Kyle, is just brilliant. And it reminds me, of course, we trade in the belief in the value that we deliver. And that organizations and people don't want to buy something. They want to solve business problems and they want to achieve business outcomes. So if you're delivering a superior value proposition, which is a business outcome, then you charge whatever they're willing to pay.
Indeed. And thanks for that. Robin and daughter.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, I apologize. I couldn't really contribute because I have to take care of her. So yeah, I think there was really good discussions. What I wanted to say is, we are obviously in a different, a slightly different market. A lot of things that we do is not necessarily problems, but opportunities and the perception of the risks in the future markets. For example, when it comes to future energy, a lot of sustainability matters. And the drive for companies to move towards a more sustainable energy source or how to store energy becomes important. There are more risk mitigation or business opportunities rather than immediate pain points that the companies want to solve. And the pricing, there's no benchmark for it in our industry. So you cannot really compare us with someone else, which is a good thing, but at the same time, the price tags are usually on the high range. The services start from 70, 90K and go up to a few million per project when it comes to development projects. But obviously, there's a lot of learnings to be had. You're just going through a huge learning how to work with industry associations, bigger universities, bigger organizations, corporates, which are the space that we haven't worked before. And learning about decision making when it comes to this type of projects. But I would like to contribute next time. So I thought to join in today is better than missing out, and then see what we can do next time.
Okay, excellent. And Mahesh and Ram, just quickly.
Okay, I think I got a lot out of different people's perspectives. Kyle's perspective was really interesting. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, and Mahesh?
Look, it was very very interesting. My services are more aligned with Melbourne. We're not in the same market that everyone is talking about. A lot of what we do can kill people. So you have to be the safety critical, time critical, and time sensitive solutions. So for me, price is something, it's not negotiable. You can go for a lower quality solution. That's fine. It's up to the customer. But a lot of things what we have is requires safety integrity levels. And if you get it wrong, it's reputation loss and mainly loss of life. A lot of safety implications. Thanks, everyone.
All right. So next roundtable, I've slated these for the third Thursday of the month. So the next one is the 19th of February. So put that in your diaries. And as always, a couple of things. One is if you have other people in your network that you think would benefit from being part of this, just shoot me an email with their details. Just introduce us. I'll have a conversation, give them a bit of a rundown, and if they want to join, that'd be great. And as always, we also work with our clients to help them market, position, and grow their businesses. So if as I'm sure you will have people in your network that could possibly use our services, I'd really appreciate an introduction. And that's it.
Sorry to interrupt. It's the 16th of February, not the 19th.
Isn't it?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Sorry, this thing's still showing January. That's why.
One of the many reasons why Barbara's there, mate.
Indeed, indeed. Me and calendar dates are not a good combination.
Me
16.
and calendar dates pretty good.
Yeah. 16th of February. Anyway, thank you, everybody.
See
Much
ya.
appreciated. Really good to have you here. And we will see you next time. Thanks.
See ya.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Thanks for being here.